I'm Joel.
And I'm Donald.
What do you get when you take a drill,
Plus, one of these weird looking things.
plus a hammer,
Plus, a ton of buckets.
plus a maple tree? As you can tell, we are not at Little Creek. We're actually doing this project at one of our local high schools that comes to Little Creek. So we are at McClure North High School. And last year we did this for the first time. It worked out really well, so now we're doing it again. They have this handy dandy little grove of sugar maple trees. So any tree can be used to make syrup, but sugar maples, they have extra high concentration of sugar in their sap, which is why everyone uses them to make maple syrup. So we are going to tap 4 of these trees. 1, 2, 3, and that last one down there, number 4. You can see actually where we tapped it last year, right here. So we are going to move about 3 inches over, 6 inches down, and do another tap for this year. We're going to do 4 trees. Depending on the size of the tree, some trees can actually accept more than 1 tap, but we're just putting 1 tap in each tree. We can only do so much sap because we're just a homegrown operation here. Donald is actually going to be the one drilling. So he comes loaded down and ready to go.
Our first step is to drill a hole. Now our hole wants to only be 1.5 to 2 inches deep. So we have this piece of tape here that's measuring that for us. And we're gonna wanna go towards the center of the tree at a slight upward angle. So as you can see, that sap is already starting to drip out. Tastes a lot like water with a little bit of a sweet hint to it.
Donald did the hard part. Now I got the easy part. The tree is already, there's plenty of sap coming out of it. We just need to collect it. So this is a spile or a tap. Some people call them a tap. We're gonna stick it in there, fasten it in with a hammer. It's just got a tube that's gonna collect the sap. Looks good. I want to be able to get it out after we're done here. And now that sap is running down to the end, little by little, just 1 drop at a time. We're gonna run it into our bucket here. And we're done. Now the tree does the rest of the work.
On to tree number 2. And now we wait. I'll see you back here tomorrow to see how much sap we collect.
Welcome back. It is day 1 of maple sap collection. The time is about 11 in the morning, and the date is, what's the date today?
28th of January?
Wait, is it
29th?
29. I think it's 29th today.
29th of January.
We set up the stuff yesterday.
And we're here today to see which tree has given us the most sap. We are going to be replacing our buckets that are full, hopefully, with these other buckets that we got from Schnucks. Let's see how much sap this tree gave us overnight. Not too much. It's kind of frozen down there at the bottom. But some days the trees are going to give us more sap than others, and it's all depending on the weather. Well, we didn't get too much sap today.
It looks like about 2.5 gallons. We ended up just combining it all into this one bucket since there wasn't that much. Not a big surprise because it's quite cold out here still. How cold would you say it is?
It's probably about 25 degrees Fahrenheit, so below freezing.
That's why all of our sap was actually ice. So it has to probably warm up a little bit more before we start getting some really good sap flow. We will be back. We're gonna take this to headquarters back at Little Creek.
Our goal is to fill up all of these buckets within the next 2.5 weeks.
The sap flows best when the nights are cold and the days warm above freezing. Unfortunately, the sap doesn't flow that well when it's just cold, cold, cold. Well, our sap flow has ground to a halt, and it's because the temperature has just dropped dramatically this week. It's been a frigid week here in the St. Louis area. This is the current condition of our sap though. It's bursting our buckets open as it freezes and expands. This is one solid block of ice. Same thing happening over here. We're hoping our buckets can hang in there and they don't start cracking on us. Now, in reality though, this is a blessing in disguise because this sap is sugar water and it would go bad if it was stored in warm weather. It's not gonna go bad in this freezer. So what do you do when there's snow on the ground, the weather's cold, and the sap just isn't flowing? Go!
is warming up quite a bit. So let's see what we have in here. Well, it is still frozen. It's kind of a sap slushy at the moment. But this sap that's in here is the same sap that was in here 2 weeks ago. It got cold and we stopped collecting. So this has just been frozen in here, but as you can see, it is starting to drip again. So hopefully within the next couple of days, our sap will start flowing for us.
Well, we are done with our collections. And this is actually what we found to be the hardest part of the whole process. Collecting the sap is okay, it's just getting buckets. The boiling took a long time last year. We've tried to make some improvements that might speed it up this year. So we've got our supplies over here. We'll show you how this all works. Those are our boiling pans, of course, our sap, and the all-important wood pile. So here's how the process works. We just grab one bucket at a time. We pour it through our pre-filter. This just filters out any larger pieces like bugs or sticks. Of course, you have to have knitting needles to do this properly. Nothing else will work besides knitting needles. From there, we turn on this spigot and the sap will flow down the tube into our dripper. This has 3 spigots, each of which can be controlled by this valve. Now once this really gets going, these will all be at a rolling boil. That's critical. I mean, you have to have a hot fire so that these things just keep boiling, boiling, boiling. It's not quite there yet, but it'll get there. And then we can adjust the flow in each of these pans to make sure we're adding just enough to keep it at a rolling boil, but still move through our sap quickly. That's the idea anyway.
And what that does is it drips into our 3 pans where we are boiling that sap. We're trying to get rid of all the water so that we have just that concentrated sugar.
There's nothing fancy going on here. We are just boiling the water away to convert the sap, which is 97% water, 3% sugar, to syrup, which is 35% water, 65% sugar. This is why it takes 40 gallons of sap to make just 1 gallon of maple syrup.
Donald, how you hanging in there?
Hot. It's still hot.
Donald has been out here all day. He's a little red-faced because of sticking his head in the smoke for the last 8 hours.
Yeah. I probably smell delicious too.
We're getting close to the end. Remember our trail of buckets? This is what's left. Just a couple more in here. we're just about there. We are ready, Donald. Put this last
right.
bucket in.
This is all we have left after 10 hours of boiling, and it is finally gonna fit into this sketchy bucket up here that is balancing on our ladder here. It's been there all day though, so hopefully nothing happens here.
The moment of truth. The last drop of sap. So what you see in this pot, you can't really see it. There's just one pot here now, or one pan. This is everything we've got. We don't have any other hidden buckets with extra sap or water someplace. All of that water that was in that sap has now been evaporated in steam, and this is all that is left. We are very close to maple syrup. We don't want to get all the way there over this fire because it's too hard to control. So we are going to be moving inside on some future date after we get a good night's sleep and finish the boil on the stovetop inside. So we're gonna pack up for the night, filter this into some buckets, and call it a night. Welcome to the last day of the maple syrup adventure. So we've moved inside. This is actually March 1st, and we boiled most of the water off over the campfire. So we went from 65 gallons down to about 4 gallons. And now here's that last 4 gallons. We're finishing it off over the stove. We're boiling it down to about 1 3/4 gallons, give or take. Pretty good progress. Time to do our first density test. This is actually the first time we're trying this. Last year we did it based on temperature. I think this is going to give us a lot more accurate results. So this is our hydrometer, and it measures using this Brix scale, Brix units. I don't really know what those are, but it's like the industry standard for measuring maple syrup density. So we are trying to get this solution to be 67 Brix. You can see I've poured some of it into this graduated cylinder. Ignore the numbers on it. Those are measuring volume. We are trying to measure density. And right now, you can tell it's not very dense yet because it's sunk all the way to the bottom. As it gets more dense, it will float, and we are trying to get it so that it'll float right at that red line right there, like so. Getting really close. Smells wonderful in here. So I'm gonna check it. We're at about 61 Brix right now, approaching 67. These last few stages will move quickly. So I want to show you how we're gonna bottle it, because once we start bottling, I'm not gonna really have time to pick up the camera and all that stuff. So once this gets to 67, we're going to filter it through one of these kind of coarse filters. And then we're going to filter it through this finishing filter. This is a much thicker. And then we're going to start bottling, we've got these small vials for student samples. And then some larger bottles over here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to do what we hope to be our final test. We are close, we know that much. Oh, okay, so looks like we're at about 66 and a half. Really close to 67. So ladies and gentlemen, we have 100% pure, delicious maple syrup.
So this is the stuff that we are filtering out. This is the sugar sand. And when it gets really hot, this is on the inside. It's pretty sticky. 1 second, I'll open this up. So that's what it looks like. So we're just filtering all that out. Exactly 1 month later, and we finally have our sweet, sweet syrup. Now there's only one more thing for us to do.
This is really good. Wait, I think the thing that surprised me the most about this whole process was both how simple it was, but how hard it was at the same time. Because it was surprisingly easy to get the sap from the trees. But then when it came to boiling, that was a lot harder than we expected. It just took forever.
The biggest surprise to me was how clear the sap was when it came out of the tree. It looked almost like water, no color whatsoever. And then we added absolutely nothing to it. We just boiled it down and it got to be this nice amber color. So from sap to syrup with just boiling.
Now you know why maple syrup is so expensive, because of all the work that goes into it.
And none of this would be possible without
The sugar maple.